This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 546 for the week of Monday, November 19th, 2018. My name is Ed.
And my name is Alex.
And joining us for, I guess this is for the intro and the outro of this episode will be Sam, who's also here for the anime recap.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Thanks for coming on, Sam. As always, you can read Sam's reviews of the One Piece anime on animenewsnetwork.com. I feel like I didn't do the intro properly then. All right, so on this episode of the One Piece podcast, we have a manga recap. Even though the manga is off this week, we have Steven and I going through the One Piece magazine, volume 4. As I said, you have me and Sam doing an anime recap for episode 862. And we've also got a little interview segment. We call them the Romance Dawn segment. Alex, you got the chance to talk to someone this week.
Yes. A really old friend of mine, Shannon Strucci, she has her own YouTube channel, Strucci Movies. She did a really great One Piece video called How One Piece Changed My Life. Some of you may have seen it. But she's, I think, more well known on the internet now for her YouTube essays called Fake Friends, about parasocial relationships. I think everybody should give that particular series a check out. It's really awesome. But yeah, I got to talk to Shannon for a bit, and really great time. And you'll hear it too.
All right, just one little bit of news I saw this week that Funimation has opened up its own Twitter account for their One Piece anime related news. So I think it's just One Piece anime on Twitter, and Funimation will be tweeting with updates about what's going on in the simulcast, and hopefully with more dub episodes or movies or OVs or TV specials coming out. So you guys have any news for this week, or should we want to move right into into our manga recap?
Yeah, let's manga
recap. Yeah.
Well, it's magazine recap.
Oh, okay. Mangazine.
It's a MOOC. I refuse to use that term, although I do at the beginning of the thing. Anyway.
A MOOC, like...
They put it right on the cover of the magazine.
I think it's pronounced MOOC, like a book, but a magazine.
Yeah, it's a MOOC.
A MOOC is... a MOOC is a guy from Brooklyn.
Isn't a MOOC a Final Fantasy creature?
A Mog. A Moogle. I think of a Moogle.
I refuse to believe that these are real. Anyway. All right, let's just move on.
Yes.
This is the manga recap for Volume 4 of the One Piece magazine. This is technically a MOOC, as Shueisha calls them, but we won't call it that. This is the Volume 4 of the One Piece magazine. Pink edition this time, and this came out, a few weeks ago, and
yeah,
there's quite a bit of stuff in here.
Yeah, although not, to be fair, not quite as much as the first run of the magazines. Which, if you remember the first 3 volumes of the One Piece magazine, they put out in was that summer of 2017, I think.
They were more spread out than that, but it was pretty much the entire year of 2017.
Yeah, and so they've come back with another round of them. And, well, it's actually going to be interesting to see now if they continue this sort of, primary color-esque design scheme.
Well, isn't it the Admiral's colors?
Could be, but, the reason that I say that is that with this one, now we knew that they had solicited a Volume 4 and a Volume 5. Mm-hmm. Volume 5 is slated for January 25th of 2019. But the real news here is that they also announced in this magazine that they are now making it a quarterly, ongoing thing. Oh, wow. So it is no longer a one-time special experiment. I guess they've decided, we can keep doing this. We can keep putting these out, and so yeah, they will continue for the time being. And so yeah, we've got this one came out in I think October was when it came out. So we'll have the next
October
one
19th, yes.
Yeah, in January. So we will get some more, but it does not have a big time Oda interview, which is why this segment is going to be significantly shorter than the other ones, but that's all right. There's still a lot of other stuff, very similar contents for the most part with the previous ones, but there's some different stuff. So yeah, we've got this.
Isn't Greg in here somewhere?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find him as we flip through this. But it is produced very much the same. It's got the bright color background, and then a sketch, black and white sketch of Luffy that has a very cool embossed, for the black ink that is embossed with some like little green reflective sparkles in them. So it just looks real nice to hold in your hands and everything.
The inside cover has the logos of the 9 straw hats. Does not include Jinbei.
No, we're still waiting on that. I think as far as the direct involvement of Oda for this, it's pretty much confined to the first thing that you see after the table of contents, which is an illustration of merienda with Luffy and Katakuri eating some donuts. And I believe this was a reader request. Like they definitely put out the call for everyone to in Japan, obviously, to send in your requests and your fan art and your cosplay pictures and all of that. And so not only do you get Oda's finished illustration, but you see after it the fan postcard with their they drew it themselves, and they said draw this with Luffy and big brother Katakuri enjoying a merienda together when they reunite. And I think the coolest part about this is that on the backside of the page of the illustration, you can tell that Oda definitely drew this on either an iPad or a computer or something like that, because it has a full process, a 13-stage process, which is really awesome, where you can see him sketching it out and then kind of refining the homies, the little donuts and cupcakes and whatnot, and then Luffy and Katakuri, and then he does the line art for just Katakuri, and then he fills in with Luffy and the others, and he's coloring it in stages, and it's really neat to see how he does that stuff.
Yeah. And he goes from white outline on the lettering from the black outline.
Mm-hmm. And just changes things around to suit him better. It's kind of cool because I know that he had said in some interviews that he still prefers, definitely for the manga itself, he is very traditional in the sense that he only wants all of his black and white story stuff to be pen and paper, but that he does experiment with digital methods when he's doing other illustrations and other less, I think, mainline material. He likes to to test out stuff and experiment, and so you can really see that here. So yeah, very cool.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the extras that come with the magazine before we get into the?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In the back, if you dare to cut open the things, and you really should, because there's some cool stuff in there. But they're the skill card 518 for the Viva cards. That's Trafalgar Law skill card. So I think that's
for the Op fruit.
Yes. Yep. And also the Trafalgar Law wanted poster, 500 million berries.
Yes, and they're still advising people, if you pull out the wanted poster, to crumple it up first and then unfold it for that properly aged look. Yeah.
It's amazing how they get the edges on this thing. It's like stamped with a dye or something.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I've not actually opened up any of the wanted posters for these magazines. Also, I should point out for the Viva card, if you are collecting them, and you're trying to fill out your collection,
gotta catch them all.
Yeah, exactly. I will point out that this is described as a I guess, I don't know, pre-sale card or something like that. This is they make it sound as though it is intended that there will be, they will include this in a future, booster pack. So this is not an exclusive card. It is exclusive at the moment, but you don't have to buy the magazine.
Wonder if the Luffy Taro and Zorojuro cards, they'll probably be available in like the Wano set, but that'll be years off.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have options for how they want to roll that stuff out. So yeah, following the that intro material, they have some promotional stuff for One Piece World Seeker, which actually just got announced a date in the West at least. Yeah, they what was it? I think March 15th, I want to say. Or maybe it's 25th, something like that. It'll be in March when that video game comes out for the PlayStation 4 and I believe Xbox and PC.
Yes, these are very One Piece movie looking characters over here.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, he's got I think he's got a well that he goes back to when he's designing these villain and sidekick characters for the video games. But yeah, there's an interview with some of the game director, cutscene director, just a bunch of different people who worked on the game. Yeah,
motion designer, scenario planner, and some interesting pictures of them at work. But
yeah, so that's some good promotional material, and then we get into the novel section, which in the first 3 issues of the One Piece magazine, they were Ace novels, which got collected into a book, and I believe
it's available at Kino everywhere, basically.
Yeah, I didn't actually buy the novel itself. I don't really buy any of the like spin-off materials, but I have to imagine that it was probably, I don't know, if I had to guess, I would say that those 3 magazines together had maybe, I don't know, probably half of the book, because they were just excerpts about
the Reader's Digest version.
Well, it was like 12 or 15 pages, right. a short story version, a vignette of the full book.
What's this Trafalgar Law commentary that appears before the novel?
I think that's just
a history of law.
Yeah. What the background for his character is, and what makes him tick. Before you get into the novel,
there's a Western artist did the cover for this.
Yeah, this is the guest artist. Since they've had guest illustrations, they're always inside the back cover as well for the magazines. And yeah, this is a guy named Ashley Wood, who I think is Australian. And it's a very cool illustration, very blocky. It reminds me a lot of Taiyo Matsumoto and his kind of more stylized type of drawings.
It reminds me a little bit of Worker and Parasite, from The Simpsons.
Yeah, well, yes, sure. The angular look.
Polish movie posters, yeah.
This is Law without his trademark hat, but he's got Kikoku, the sword, and he's striking a pretty cool pose. And yeah, I guess I'm not sure how Oda found out about him, but I have to imagine that was a request. That's usually how it works. Oda finds out people that he likes their style, and then he's like, hey, you want to do something with me? And
there's an illustration here of Penguin and Shachi and Law, and I guess they've beaten Beppo severely.
Let's see, where is that?
2 pages in there.
Yeah, that was an SBS thing,
okay.
But he was describing how they got together. Yeah, so and actually, on a side note with this Ashley Wood thing, I believe that he posted a picture of
he tweeted it, yeah.
Right, of the autograph that he got from Oda, and it was like, what was it, like full color? I don't know. Greg would be able to tell you. He was just like, oh my god, you have no idea like how rare this is. And that
it's fun when Greg gets excited like that.
Yeah. But following the novel excerpt, they have an interview with Yasutaka Nakata, who is the guy from Capsule, who wrote music for Perfume and Kari Pamu Pamu, and wrote some songs for Film Z as well. He and Oda have been getting along for years. A very good, synth pop type of composer and producer and whatnot. So there's a nice little interview of him talking about a whole bunch of One Piece stuff in there, and probably how he and Oda got together. And after that, I think we start to get into more of the promotional materials, the advertising tie-ins. We have some the fashion section, which actually this one I think is a little cooler than some of the past ones, because it is actually based on or inspired by a color spread, because you can actually see it. They include it there, and
I
so,
like the Brook one,
right,
especially with the rolled up. He looks like he walked out of a Dexy's Midnight Runners video. Neckerchief and rolled up jeans.
Yeah. So it's like Brook this is the mushroom. Yeah, mushroom, and they got the dancing or the fiddling grasshoppers. Looks like
it was featured in the calendar a few years back. It's one of the fall color spreads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very kind of Aesop's Fables looking color spread, and so for example, Brook has got he's got a red kerchief on and a black and white striped shirt and some blue jeans, and so that's kind of what the model is wearing, and similar outfits for the rest of the crew that appears there. So that's kind of neat. And then on the second one is a famous, a beloved one. Excuse me, baby, no parking on the battleground.
It's also seen in the opening for in opening 6.
Yeah, that's right. One of the ones that they picked up for the anime opening, and that's the one with everybody's in their battle fatigues and they're running away from something or towards something. I'm not sure what, so they've got kind of everyone's got the green army jacket look and some loose fitting pants and different styles of boots and so on.
The Robin one is in the heels, of course, because she isn't actually running.
No, she just rides. So after
it's interesting that some of these brands are just like regular American brands, like Lee. The hat is like a Lee.
Yeah. Yeah. But they have to include the the phone numbers for every single brand here, so that you can call and reserve yours if you need it. I guess.
This is how you get the magazine to be a quarterly regular thing.
Yeah, that's
merchandising.
Right. And then so in the first 3 One Piece magazines, they had a segment with 2 of the former editors for One Piece, and that is Habuta, the second editor. I think Greg calls him Mr. One Piece, and because he was the guy for like Alabasta and some of the classic era, and then Bati, Jean-Baptiste Hattori, and they went to Takarajima, Treasure Island, to look for some, I think it was said to be a treasure map from Captain Kidd, although I believe that the map itself came from some, 1930s, adventure magazine or something like that. But it was clearly kind of based on the terrain of one of these, tiny little islands that has about 100 people living on it. And so they had this whole kind of travelogue thing with lots of pictures and sort of them goofing off. And in this one, they have decided to go visit Kumamoto, the region where Oda was born and raised, and where they're doing all of the renovations on Kumamoto Castle, which was really severely damaged in an earthquake recently. And so it's kind of it's actually kind of funny. Not to add to Zach's anxiety over not having OPP Japan online at the moment, but there's a lot of some familiar sites from the Kumamoto portion of that documentary that we put together years back. They do visit with they visit the Barate, the the steakhouse where Oda once worked, and they have some shots of them posing with the chef Tasaki-san, who was the the guy who was the inspiration for Sanji. I want to say like the attitude of Sanji, although he's really more like Zeph, I think.
Yeah. You see the picture of I think that's Akira Jean-Baptiste Hattori stuffing his face like Gin. They do a comparison shot.
Yeah. Yes, shoveling the rice in.
These guys just kind of look. These kind of look like dorks in there, and they're like Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, they're definitely on vacation here.
Yeah.
There's plenty of shots with Kumamon, the the Hail Satan bear, as people may remember.
Why can't American states have mascots like that?
Yeah.
They all should.
So yeah, it seems like they had some fun, and they're of course showing off the sites, a few plugs here and there. There's a map after the stuff with all of these various destinations, including the steak saloon Barate, and some parks and whatnot. So that is the editor's travelogue, and then following that, okay, here we go. We promised it. Here is the some Mania, One Piece Mania round table, and this is talking about the Luffy figurine that they designed. And so they've got Kenji Kamiki, Takashi, Kei Koyaki, and one Greg Warner. And they've got them all gathered around a table, and they're just sort of talking about I don't know if I would say the process as much as just sort of like, here's the things that, here's what I wanted to try to do, and here's what we wanted to do, and this is so cool, and just
they all look like bobbleheads.
Yeah, the pictures over their text, they kind of photoshopped them into some bobblehead form. And then they have a full page with the Luffy figurine, and each one of the guys is sort of pointing out, here's this cool thing, or here's that cool thing that we really wanted to put in there, and here's what this item is, and here's what that item is, and so just a nice kind of a recap of the creative process behind the Luffy figurine. And this is, of course, if you have not seen it, or if you're not, if this doesn't pop into your head, it is the figure of Luffy going on an adventure, and he's got all three hats for the brothers on at the same time, and he's got a big old backpack stuffed full of stuff, and there's just every little item is something from the series. So like the Foxy badge, and
the torn off sleeve of Nami's winter jacket from Drum.
Yes, from Drum. There's some meat on a bone. I believe the bone chari, the bubble bike is the handlebars are stuck in there.
His helmet from Dressrosa, I think.
Yes, the Lucy helmet. So yeah, there's just tons of little stuff, and it's a very it's not like a cool Luffy action pose. It's a fun Luffy action pose, and I think they did a good job of like kind of filling in a little bit of a niche that was not being represented. So it's a very cool figure. Yeah. After that, we have the Mugiwara Kitchen, Sanji's cooking thing. It looks like this one is a Diabola chicken and meatballs recipe, which seems like it's probably spiced up.
It looks like there's apples with cinnamon sticks stuck into them in that chicken dish.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cinnamon going on. Yeah, and some Swedish meatballs, and so yeah, that's
you can read Japanese. You can try and make it yourself.
Yep. I'm sure they're probably stockpiling more material for yet another Sanji cookbook. It's it's an endless, there's endless possibilities to continue merchandising that for sure.
Both Maddie and me both own the book. I think she's the
Mm-hmm.
only one who's made recipes out of it, though.
Yeah. After this, we have the animal, the illustrated animal book, which in the past had, I think Momu was one of them, and God, I can't remember now which ones this artist covered before.
Was it
this time we have,
was it Sodom and Gomorrah? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly cannot remember. This one is Zunisha.
Ooh, that's an important one.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, it's not really telling you a whole lot of stuff that we didn't know already, but it is worthwhile, I think, just for the rather realistic portrait of Zunisha with the full legs, the length of the legs, including a little bone cross section, just so you can see how horrifyingly long Zunisha's legs are. So that's fun.
And is that I think that's Jack about to get wrecked in that first illustration too.
Yeah, let's we could say that, I think, or imagine that. It is certainly an intimidating illustration for the first page there. Mm-hmm. And then following that, they just kind of have a general recap of what Zunisha is and all of the story background, all the stuff that we have seen Zunisha doing.
More picture
following that, we have the children's menu, bring your crayons out portion of
I haven't I've torn out the wanted poster. I haven't done the map yet, the maze yet.
Yes, we've got a couple mazes actually. There's some fill in the. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of wacky stuff. I actually sat down. Now I was tired at the time, so maybe I would find it right away. But there is a spot the difference comparison thing of the scene where Luffy is showing off his crappy flag from close to the start of the series, and it says there are 8 mistakes. Find them all, and for the life of me, I could only find 7. I cannot find the 8th one. I don't know what this means. If it's a mistake, a typo, a printing mistake, or if I am just not up to the task. But
I haven't tried this one, but I'll let you know.
All right, yeah, you do that. So yeah, it's just a kind of a silly. I do kind of like the illustration style. It is
highlights for children.
Yeah, it's very child friendly, I would say. And now we're sort of getting more into the, I think, kind of the more tangential materials of the magazine. There's a kind of cosplay model. I believe this is a cosplayer called
Pirates of Gravian. What interesting.
Michopa. Is her name, and she is cosplaying Boa Hancock, and then they have a bunch of some interview pages and some little little sidebars of like her favorite scenes, her favorite handsome male characters, and favorite female characters that she thinks are cool, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty straightforward. The next one, I'm not really sure why this guy or what the point is. I need to read closer into this one. They have an interview with a brewer, I think. I believe this is sake Nihonshu brewer, and there's some sort of tie-in with One Piece here. I'm not sure if they just found someone who had a lot to say about One Piece, or if maybe they did some sort of, sake licensed tie-in at some point, or what. But there's a
interesting
guy with he's explaining a lot of stuff about One Piece and sake. And then following that, speaking of sake, we have some some cosplay, all of Zorro, with
All
some
different
adorable,
kinds too. Yeah.
yeah, some adorable kids, dressed up like Zorro, with their green robes, and some adults as well. Lots of ages. I love this kid who he's got what looks like it looks like he's got like I don't know, like a little duster for the sword in his mouth, and then he's got a hand broom in one hand and a full-on he's just holding the vacuum in his other hand.
You can see the vacuum down by his feet.
Yeah, he's got the three.
There's a cat Zorro.
Yeah, the cat Zorro with the little tiny swords on his waist. Baby Zorro and some guy with cucumbers, and he appears to be mostly naked. That's great.
Yeah. One guy who didn't want his face to be shown.
Yeah. A group shot of Zorro doing a follow through of an attack, and then a bunch of people kind of jumping into the air like they've been slashed. Some classic early East Blue type stuff.
Some other fan art too.
Yeah, some more fan art. This is actually printed in color for once, so you can see the color work. So that's some fun stuff. I don't know if there's any like notable artists or people from interesting locations. I think they are all from Japan in this.
All the ones on the left side of this page are they're kind of interesting. With Carrot doing like a 3-carat style, and the Law Nami cross dressing, and Moda and Ace fan art. You don't see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think. Oh yeah. So this was a themed one where they prompted people, send in your drawings of like if Law did his chambres to switch the personalities. Which people would you like to see switched? And so that's why you've got Carrot and Zorro, being different personality, sense, and Luffy as Shirahoshi on the top, and obviously Ace and Moda at the bottom. You can definitely tell from the poses. Some pretty silly stuff. And then after that is the just anything goes free category. So there's some stuff there, and then the telling people the deadline for the deadline for the fifth edition, the fifth volume of the magazine, to get it into Japan is going to be it's going to be the day that we are releasing this episode. So
yeah, too late then.
That's all right. We've got some, the Wikipedia, the Wikipedia Free Commons section where Robin is detailing some historical piratey, legends or
can you
stories.
What is file 12 or 13? Do you know what those are? One is 11 is the Flying Dutchman.
Yes,
that one I know.
Yes, that's for sure. I think this is kind of like the Fishman Island edition of the historical pirate background, because we got the Flying Dutchman. There is the I guess you call it like the barrel adrift. Putting stuff in the barrel. This is more of a Thriller Bark thing, I guess. When they found the the treasure barrel. This is more of a I guess a Japanese pirate, or
they have a map up here at the top of the first page there.
Yes, there it is. Where they are describing, a custom of, putting out an offering to the sea god and setting it adrift in a barrel. And then file 13 is, legendary creatures that live in the deep. So, they're, talking about krakens and umibozu, which is of course Watatsumi. So
one is arguably real depending on your definition of giant squid, and the other
sure
not so much.
Yes. So that's the historical section. We've got some some trivia, a trivia quiz. One of which was absolutely preposterous. I'm gonna say it here because they do list the answers at the end, so I'll be able to return to it. The fifth question with the highest star rating is, okay, so these 4 people have a number associated with them, and you need to add it all up and come up and say which character has which character corresponds to the number that they add up to. So those 4 characters are Alvida, Gyro, the guy with the lobster hands, Caribou, and Rockstar. So what numbers are they associated with, and who is associated with the yeah, exactly. Okay, so we'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
Following that, we're kind of getting into the ad. We'll hear some more ads, some figures, upcoming figures of scantily clad female characters.
Yeah.
Nami doing a striptease, and Hancock, who's
good lord,
his chest is just simply exploding. There's some chocolate egg. I guess there's a sort of like a candy with secret character inside.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of them listed there.
That shit would be illegal in this country.
Yeah, it should be. Following that, we've got some fan based manga. This one is about Kamiki. This is a continuation of
one of Greg's friends.
Yeah, one of the other mania. He had manga kind of about him where he was talking about his daily routine, just making a bunch of riffs on like, oh well, first thing I do is run to the convenience store and pick up the issue of Jump, and I read it 3 times, and all of the little things like that. This one is more of him like introducing cosplayers and showing off their pictures and stuff. And then they have some, fun gags and, who's your favorite random characters to cosplay and so on. It's just in manga form. There's
a section on psychology.
Yeah, this is they've had some guys, some people write like little essays on some I guess drier topics that using One Piece characters and examples to illustrate their points. I think there was one about like different Japanese mentality of one for all and all for one type characters, and then having examples of who exemplifies that in One Piece characters. Lastly, we're starting to get to the good stuff with some designs. We have some Oda sketches, the rough draft of when he introduced all of the Revolutionary Army captains, Morley, Belabedi, Lindbergh, and Karasu, in his original sketch form, which this is obviously when he was doing the chapter draft, so it's not like the design sketches. So there isn't really an interesting difference, I would say. It's just
like a storyboard kind of.
Yeah, it's just a storyboard pretty much. And that is followed with a bunch of background on the revolutionaries and who all of the introduced members are, and so on. So we know that they are becoming more and more important in the story, especially with the reverie going on.
One thing I was disappointed with in the magazine, they didn't have Oda's playlist.
Yeah, they didn't do a music thing. I would really like to see. I hope they do that in one of the future volumes for the Wano arc, just to see, like what sort of enka or whatever a traditional festival music or something like that he is he's listening to. Then we have this is actually, I think, the one thing that probably the most people would find interesting is the character sketches for I think this is all of the daughters.
Yeah.
Yes, specifically of Big Mom, and so I think they're all technically named here now. So including all of the ones that it was like we had the first wave that were introduced in the manga, and then there was kind of a second wave of characters who needed to be fleshed out for the anime, and now we've kind of finally got the whole set of the at least the female Big Mom family or Charlotte family members. I don't know if there's anything particularly interesting to.
I'm sure someone will translate it and add it to the wiki.
It's probably already all
probably
done. I would imagine. We do have. Let's see. I'm just looking because they do list some of the ministers. Broyer. That's probably some French word. Is the minister of meringue. And let's see. We have cornstarch, who is the minister of love from Love Town.
Okay.
Loving Island. Yeah, I'm not sure how that.
So are those the little candy hearts?
Yeah, I don't know. She's the one with the hairstyle that looks like a Roman pillar. So that's an interesting. I guess that makes sense because cornstarch you shape things with the starch, so she could do some wacky things with her hair.
Okay, so which number is she?
The 11th daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, Smoothie, the juice minister of juice. Citron is the minister of eggs. That's because she's the egg-shaped one.
Right.
Let's see. We have Marnier from Kibo Island. She is the minister of yeast. Ooh.
Who's this tentacle woman?
The tentacle woman. Prim is the 20th daughter. Yeah, she's got a bit of a little bit of Ursula going on there. Yeah, Praline is she was the minister of design from Fancy Town on Unique Island. the names of the island, they just get weirder and weirder. It's great. Yeah, we knew Galette was the minister of butter, but she is also from Margarine Island. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I think when you get younger, there are fewer ministers because they're little kids.
Yeah, what's the one with the claws? This girl with the claws.
Which
next page, I think.
Okay, this is which number daughter are you
number
looking at?
28.
I don't see. 28 is Panna. I don't even see her hands. Oh, the huge things. Oh gosh, I thought that was like a cape or something. Yeah, she's got like big old bear claws. Wow, yeah, that's wild. Yeah, she doesn't have a minister title.
Yeah.
Okay. Although Flampe, it turns out, is the minister of honey. So
she's rising up the ranks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's
quiz challenge. Here's the quiz challenge.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I promised you the quiz. Here are the answers to all of the quiz questions. So the number, of course, was referring to the bounties of these various characters. So you had to know the bounties of all of these very random characters. Alvida's bounty was 5 million berries. Gyro's bounty was 73 million berries. Caribou's bounty is 210 million berries, and Rockstar's is 94 million berries. Add them all up, and that makes 382 million berries, which is Pedro's bounty. So the answer was Pedro.
Wow.
Can't imagine who would be able to answer that, like, consulting their own memory, but there you go.
And I was wrong. Greg makes 2 appearances in this magazine.
Yeah, there is a bit of a back and forth interview, just a little 2-page back and forth between Kamiki and Greg, where they they talk about One Piece stuff. Greg's got some. They talk about what's your favorite part of the magazines. Like Greg says, he likes the giant, monster illustrations. Okay, here we go. This is the ones that I forgot. Laboon and Oars were the other, illustrations of giant creatures. So them and Momu, and then Zunisha on this volume. So
there's a little bit of music in here actually, though, because they have for some of the color spreads they talk about, the Beatles coming together for the one.
Right.
And James Brown's "It's Too Funky" in here for the basketball one.
Yes, that is the line.
The pirate ain't leaving no slack. Yeah.
Yes, the man ain't leaving no slack, and he switched out for pirate. Some fun stuff like that. Greg has a little anecdote about how he teaches 3 to 6th graders, and one of the things he always does when he gets a new class at the new school year is that he shows them some of the they don't say it by name because the show the show kind of got taken off the air in disgrace, but referring to Hokotate, the One Piece.
That sounds like a story. That's a story I have not heard. I'm curious now.
Oh, it was something to do with like they didn't properly vet the guy who did one of their like animal related segments, and so there was turned out that there was some kind of animal abuse issue going on.
Okay, so
or something like that.
Yeah, not an anime related scandal.
No, it was not. But yeah, it hasn't been on for a few years, which is a shame because obviously, hey, Greg would not be where he is without that TV show. Right. So yeah, there's just a lot of kind of nerd talk going on in there. That's some fun stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe one day Greg will grace us with a full translation if he feels like it. But that obviously depends on other things. But we've got some of the super SBS, as they call it, which is where they ask a couple of the different editors some question relating to Oda or relating to working with the manga, and they all give their different answers. The one that I found interesting in this one, the very first question was, what was the thing you saw at Oda's house that shocked you the most?
Wow.
And one of them, which I believe Greg has sent me a picture of this, from the parties and such that Oda throws, was the life size, possibly in question mark life size giraffe model. That he's got just this huge giraffe in there.
I wonder if he's had that for like 12 years now since he introduced the giraffe character.
I have no idea. I'm sure it is not something that he bought before moving into that house, because I believe it is. It is in a 2-story open space. So wow. It's big old thing. And they've got some other, let's see, there's a chair, let's see, a chair that is like ground down. Oh, maybe it's the fact that his desk chair has been so worn out that the metal is showing. So I guess he's been sit in the same chair, or he had a chair for so long that he wore it out. Maybe he keeps it around. Bati says an entire wall of DVDs of movies. That makes sense, knowing Oda is a big film buff. And the new guy, Naito, says a talking tree. I know it sounds like a fantasy, but when you're walking down the hallway from the doorway to the studio, you pass by. There's a tree, I guess, with a motion sensor that goes ha 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 when you walk by it. And if you're not expecting it, it can almost give you a heart attack, he says. So.
Wow. And what's this about R2-D2?
I believe that's another. Well, yeah, Oda has a bunch of sort of life-size models or figures. He's got a polar bear, a Terminator, and an R2D2 listed as other examples. So,
Ooh.
but the giraffe is number one, apparently. And yeah, it's almost at the end now. We've got some like fan sort of joking, like fill in the blanks, Mad Libs for various scenes, like Roger on the execution stand.
I wonder if any of them are actually funny.
Let's see. You want my treasure? If you want it, you can have it. Look for Gold E. Roger. He knows it. He knows the truth, or he knows the answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there's also the Sanji. Well, this isn't the Sanji goodbye scene, but it's the scene where Sanji is first really connecting with Luffy on the balcony of the Baradier, and Zeph is looking down at him, and in the original line he says like, look at this idiot. Look at the smile on his face, and what is he? One of them, he's like, why aren't you inviting me to join this conversation, or something like that. So yeah, it's just some silly ad lib stuff, and I think that's about it. Then it heads into the the ad spread for the Viva card, telling you the information on what the deal is with that and how to pick it up. It's got some ads for the various books, the storybook, the papercraft storybook that the first three magazines contained, and the novels that they have been putting out. Ad for volume 90, which is out now, and then the aforementioned volume 5 of the magazine, which will come out on January 25th. And and then you got your fold out, your free poster and Viva card in the back of Law.
All right, that is the 4th volume of the One Piece magazine. Any final thoughts, Stephen?
No, it's I guess if you were looking for Oda interviews, some big meaty stuff from Oda himself, it does not contain that. So the page count is a little bit smaller as well, and it is the same price. So I know that I think that some people maybe on Amazon Japan were not exactly happy about that, but it is still a very it still has the same very high quality production that the first 3 had. It looks very nice. It's a nice nice item to have on the shelf and to display as well. So if you did pick up one or more of the original magazines, kind of as something to flip through and look at, this is it's a nice one too. I'm interested to see what they will what they'll come up with for future installments, as this is now a quarterly thing. But that's about everything to say about this one.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next segment.
Okay.
This is the anime recap for episode 862, Sulong, Carrot's Big Mystical Transformation. I'm your host, Sam, and today with me once again, we have Ed.
Hi. Nice to be a guest. I've been hosting a lot lately, but I enjoyed this week's anime, although I felt like it could have been better.
Yeah, I've got my feelings.
I imagine you
of
do.
course.
Many feelings.
The title card begins at 3 minutes and 48 seconds. We open with some Luffy and Katakuri, and it's kind of just repeating what we've been seeing for the last episode or two.
Yeah. The focus hasn't been on them.
Yeah. Katakuri is trying to come up with some logical explanation for why Luffy would come back and fight him, and he's like, "Oh, you want to join our crew?" Just kind of trying some smack talk, and Luffy does a Gatling, and I like seeing Katakuri have to bend backwards to dodge all the punches. So we transition back to the naval scene. Big Mom and Perospero are on the attack. The Sunny is surrounded both front and back by fleets of ships. Jinbei is bothered by this, and he's calling out to Carrot, who's playing lookout. He's like, "Who's ahead of us?" And Carrot determines that it is Daifuku, Mr. Genie Man,
Yeah, it was I have issues with Daifuku later on in this episode. He seems to be, I don't know, he's enjoying the genie too much.
And also coming up from behind is Smoothie and her sisters, Citron and Cinnamon. So it's a lot of big shots at the front and the back. So Big Mom's stomach is growling, and Perospero notices that she has been getting thinner. I guess she's just been burning calories throughout this whole rampage.
Hey, it's a rampage. It's difficult.
Yeah. I like how this is the point where I feel like Big Mom is transitioning out of like just raging kaiju shouting wedding cake all the time. Like she's getting tired. She's her eye is on the prize and a little more sunken-eyed and tired. And
I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a lot less music, I think, overall in this whole episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a lot of silence, especially once they got out to the naval scene, as you put it.
So we get a... first we have Chopper. He's saying he's got a rumble ball in hand just in case he needs to go monster form. And Daifuku is trying to decide on what kind of cannonballs he wants to use because since Big Mom is in the state she's in, homie cannonballs are not as reliable. So it's like no faces.
Paying off the story from last week.
So we get a little Pedro flashback. We've seen this one where it's Pedro and Carrot against the Magic Hour Sunset.
Yeah, it's so interesting that like they feel like they drag this out so much that it sort of loses impact. I feel like it takes a while to get there, and we sort of lose the tension.
Yeah, they covered about as much as I expected, and yet it still feels like this is they did more than they could have gotten away with this week. Like they didn't just like end it at the same cliffhanger as in the manga. They went on a little further, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like they're still buying time.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it
though. So yeah, she's saying, "Hey guys," Carrot is saying, "Hey guys, let me take care of this. It is a full moon." Jinbei seems to know what this means. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna turn Sulong," and she takes her hat off, saying Pedro had trained her. And we all know what Pedro would say in this moment. He would just say, "Leave it to me." So in his stead, she's saying, "Leave it to me."
I think this is sort of where the silence did a lot of good for the episode, where it still tries to, it sort of displays the calmness, like before the violence, but I'm not sure. It's still missing something.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely reaching. It's definitely trying, but I don't think the episode quite gets there in terms of execution or direction. But Carrot is looking up at the moon. She starts glowing, and the electricity happens. She's becoming more like animalistic. She's growling, and her teeth are sharp. And I really like the animation on like her tail just exploding, becoming huge.
They changed her voice. Is that the same actress?
As far as I'm aware, it's the same actress. I double checked to see if they've added a new name on the wiki or anything, and I hadn't seen. It would not surprise me. Like I feel like that's something you could get away with, like just two very different performances.
Like especially when she's talking to Daifuku towards the later part of the episode.
Yeah, I mean that's basically her only line in the episode.
Well, and also the roaring, but yeah, that could be just affected. Like
yeah, it could just be like straight up an animal. So yeah, she transforms. We get her like, because when she transforms, she gains this like weird neck scarf thing.
Well, like Chopper has that too in his current form that he's in this for this entire episode.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it's just an animal thing, the fur, but like it's like she's reflecting the light off the moon, like she glows in this form. It's impressive.
Yeah, I like. And there's a really good pullback shot where we're close up on the moon and we pull back and we see her full.
And
her full design.
the camera swings around like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the music. It's very it feels like something that would have played during Drum Island. It's very kind of calm and wintry.
Yeah, it's one of the better points of the episode as far as like the animation, like and how she attacks. It looks great, but I think the part where it was missing something for me was the lead up to the transformation, and then making like they did a better job of showing how dangerous she was or how violent she could be in the second half of the episode.
Yeah. Brooke comments that he would like to see her panties.
Hey, and Nami hits him. That's the fun part is when Nami hits him.
Nami remembers Dogstorm talking about the true power of the minx. And that's the eye catch of the episode. And then we come back. Daifuku seems to recognize he knows a mink when he sees one. He's like, oh, that Pedro came from the Phantom Island Zoo, so she must be from there. And then this is when Carrot she flies. This is sort of where I was like, oh, because the motion that you get in the manga is so the implied motion is so like fluid, and there's a lot of like sense of momentum, and I don't think that quite carries here, where it's much more. Feels a lot more stiff and static.
Well, that's just they didn't animate this as much as they possibly could have, and maybe it's because she isn't a main character. But
yeah, I was prepared for them. Like I was sure they were like saving some of their best guys for this one. But
yeah, I kind of wish that was the case.
So yeah, we have she's dodging bullets, she's zapping dudes, she's biting a guy's neck, doing backflips, doing all these crazy things.
She does the if you've ever seen just the Inazuma kick from Gunbuster.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite cut, like animation cut of the episode. And there's a lot of like, One Piece has always borrowed a lot of sound effects from DBZ.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of like,
it's a Toei Animation library.
They just are using like the Super Saiyan like power up sound effect.
Super Saiyan 2, maybe with the lightning.
Maybe I don't know it. Well, just the like pew sound.
Okay.
Like it sounds like an old sound effect. Like it's kind of low fidelity. So it's like wow, they actually just like dug deeper than normal.
Yeah, I'm not up to Super Saiyans in my rewatch of DBZ. I'm at the Ginyu Force right now.
So Chopper is amazed. We finally get the reveal that what Carrot is actually doing is taking the wheels off of the ships, and she gives Daifuku a cute little smile. Then the fun music gets to kick in.
Yeah.
Daifuku's got his genie. He's slicing around, but she's kind of leading him to attack his own ships. She's like, "Oh, where are you aiming, Genie-san?" And that's our like vocal line.
Yeah. Well, it's also
I don't think she ever even. I'm not sure if she even speaks in the manga in Sulong form. Maybe at the end when she's powering down, but
this is the point. This is the part where the genie comes out and he's like, that little rabbit. But it sounds like he's enjoying himself too much.
Chopper's like, "Oh, she's like a little sister to me." He's very excited.
He's got a very cool little sister.
Jinbei is explaining what the moon lion, the Sulongs, the moon lions are all about, and it's when the minks look at the full moon on a clear night, like something deep in their past awakens, and it's like this power up that will, if untrained, they will fight until they die, basically, and they can drain themselves out in a single month, or not a month, in a single night. So Brooke is like, that's cool. So I'll back her up. And he hops off the ship. Looks like he's about to like fall in the water, but he does his normal like Brooke walking on water thing, and he runs off. And then we come back to Luffy versus Katakuri, and this feels a little off topic for the episode, but I do like the scene where Luffy he's trying to figure out the color of observation himself, and he's like closing his eyes. There's a lot of tension kind of built up to the moment, and then Katakuri just is like
he whacks him into the wall.
Yeah, his big twisty arm punch thing
Mhm.
smacks Luffy into the wall.
Well, it's a good fake out because you think like, oh, Luffy's gonna figure it out, like otherwise, like how cause that's how he's gonna win this fight, right? But at this point, it's like not quite yet. So he just gets hit, and
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not much.
Yeah, he gets back up. He's charging at Katakuri, and that is how the episode ends.
Mm-hmm.
General thoughts, Ed?
The parts I thought with the Sulong with the attacking, I like the silence. I like the whole aesthetic design of it and the way. I mean, I also like how it's written from the manga to begin with, so it starts off on a positive for me. But I feel like the anime could have added more to that, and as you said, animated it in with that super high quality. I remember like when Cat Viper attacked on Zoe the first time, and I kind of wish it would look like that, but they didn't. That just wasn't the budget for this episode, I guess.
Yeah, this episode looks okay. Like I think that they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot of things with like color and atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which I appreciate.
And the music, as you said.
And the music, none of it quite scratched the itch I needed it to, especially because this was a very like highly anticipated episode for me.
Right.
And I thought it was. I did think it was interesting that the Sulong transformation, the transformation itself, they leaned much more Super Saiyan than Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they could have gone either way with that.
I don't know. I kind of like the animalistic. Like I kind of like the way they went because it's supposed to be this vicious thing.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. Although I was like very confident that it was going to be like a Naotoshi Shida like Sailor Moon Crystal transformation. But yeah, I think that this is the right choice. I just think that the rest of it's that action sequence. It's just like it's not they did not. It's not their A game. It's not like this. They did not set this episode aside like, okay, we got to get this one right, like I had hoped they would.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see what they got for us next week.
All right. Yeah. Let's move on to the next segment, shall we?
Right on.
Hey everybody, it's your old pal Alex. Welcome to Romance Dawn, the interview segment that's less of an interview and more of a powwow. I don't know, we're still workshopping it. This time around, Joey Weiser, our buddy Joey's going to be joining us for this particular segment. Hey Joey. And today we're going to be talking to Shannon Strucci, whose work you might be familiar with from the YouTube video How One Piece Changed My Life, as well as the video essays on parasocial relationships entitled Fake Friends. Take it away, Shannon. Who are you? And what do you do? And what's this is super informal.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on.
No prob.
I am a filmmaker and video essayist. I mostly do either movie reviews or game reviews or video essays on YouTube. And Fake Friends is definitely the thing I'm best known for. Especially it's taken off way more than I thought it would in the past couple months. It's been very different lately. But yeah, I made the One Piece video last spring or summer. I've been reading One Piece since 2003.
Yeah.
And that's the only video I've made. I mentioned it in the Fake Friends series, but that's the only video I've made focusing on it.
Yeah. And you and I, we sort of went to One Piece school together.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we both kind of came up around the same time as far as the One Piece fandom goes.
Yeah.
So sort of old timers in that regard.
I've known who you were since 2005. I don't think we became friends until a couple of years after that.
Yeah. Not until we joined a particular forum at the same time.
It's been really weird because I'm not active in the One Piece fandom anymore, apart from a little bit on Twitter, to still see people around that I saw 13 years ago or whatever is very strange. Getting used to that, over knowing who someone is or knowing them for over a decade because of an anime and manga. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Every once in a while, I'll go back to Arling Park forums and just to see what's going on and seeing who's still posting, which is actually kind of crazy. But not really, because One Piece is like one of those series that when you're in it, like you're in it, like it's you're a lifer at that point.
Yeah, that's that longevity thing. It really can grab a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. So Shannon, you do touch on it a little bit in your video, but how did you get into One Piece?
We used to go to Blockbuster every week as a family to rent like a movie or a video game, and on the magazine rack they had the old American Shonen Jump volumes, and it was like the August 2003 issue or the September 2003 issue, and I recognized like Yu-Gi-Oh on the cover, and I was like, this looks good, and I think it was the English translation was in the Buggy arc. So I read a couple of chapters of it there. I'm like, that's interesting, and then I got the first volume, and then I got the Hong Kong DVDs.
Yeah.
I did not watch fan subs. I watched terrible bootleg DVDs off of eBay around 2004, 2005. And then it was 2005 that I caught up on Scanlations through like Water. I went from the end of Skypia all the way through Water 7 to the beginning of NES Lobby overnight. Which is like really weird.
It can have that effect. Like One Piece is an easily bingeable series. Whether you're talking about the show or the manga, I think it was. I also cut my teeth on the Hong Kong subs because there wasn't anything else that I knew how to do except for just go on eBay.
Yeah, so did I. Well, actually, I had the first, I think, like 4 or 5 episodes on a VHS fan sub, and then transitioned to the Hong Kong, the bad Hong Kong one. So I had like the establishment of like who the characters were and stuff from those first couple of episodes, but then after that it was Whackville.
It's just gibberish.
Yeah, it's
a lot of it.
Well, it's also kind of interesting though because the Hong Kong subs sort of give a rough gist of what's going on, and if you have context, enough context clues, you can kind of figure it out and still enjoy it.
I think One Piece is so strong in the emotional storytelling and the visual storytelling. Even if I missed a lot of like puns or jokes, I still would get, because that was another thing I did. I bought the DVDs and I watched the first 120 episodes in like 10 days. When I was in like middle school, I just sat there and binged it and ignored my family and just watched like, I don't even know, like 12 episodes a day.
Oh, man.
And like trying to process, because I must have been around like Barati, probably where I was reading, and then I went from that to the end of Skypia in like a week. Which was crazy. Not in like broken English. It was really crazy. It was really fun and weird, like having dreams about it or whatever, because it's just like every single day, and I just got completely obsessed with it for a long time.
Yeah, it's so nuts. I remember I ended up buying a CD off of eBay that had like all the scanlations up until I think the beginning of Skypia. And because I wasn't internet savvy as far as like how to acquire illegal manga and
and
anime.
I never really wanted to.
Yeah,
but there was no option. Like that was before the 4Kids dub was even a thing.
Yeah, and the Viz translations were only so they were only so far at the time, and it's when you see a series that hasn't gotten the amount of play that it has yet in America, it's that you like it. It's sort of you kind of do what you can in order to see it. But now we have simulcasts and we have the translation of the manga like the day of same day in Japan, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. Like how far like we've come as far as fans go.
Yeah, I think that I think that kind of back in that day, the sort of detective work of piecing things together was part of the appeal, and so in that way, those terrible Hong Kong subs were almost fun in that way, that you're trying to figure out what it was that you were watching, But now you can have the actual intended experience of reading the series as you should, rather than piecing it together like a weird puzzle or something.
Yeah, I remember I thought Crocodile was Clockdell for so long, which doesn't make any sense. Just stuff like that of like, oh, he's like Captain Hook and like Crockett. Like you get a better appreciation for everything or for the more like I'm glad that I quit. Like I don't even know, like is the entire series available with the Hong Kong subtitles, or did they stop? Like did
I
it
don't
quit
know.
being profitable? Because I can only imagine something like NES Lobby or like the more politically centered storylines being completely baffling and not understanding it versus something like Alabasta, which is pretty easy to follow.
That's a
To
good
me.
question. Every once in a while, I never think about it, but I should like look on eBay and see like what what they have. But
Mhm.
at this point, like Funimation is pretty far along with that. That I don't know. I think uh, it's a lot
It's way more
easier.
easy to get
Yeah.
the like quality product. Yeah.
I remember using MSN groups to read scanlations,
Mm.
and someone uploaded like Lemon Party on one of them or something when I was like a teenager, and I was like, "What is it like getting
God.
trolled with like which is a really horrible, weird graphic image from the old internet."
Oh my God. The old internet, like the wild when it really was the Wild West, but now it's
Yeah, like 12, 13 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my
It was
God.
fun. Like Jay was saying though, it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super funny just sort of going back and looking at all the names. Sunkissed is the one that stuck in my mind. Sanji being Sunkissed. That was my favorite. Um, so you mentioned already Oda's knack for emotional storytelling through visual means.
hmm
What are your in that regard? What are your favorite aspects of One Piece? Like, what do you love about it?
The emotional aspects
Or
of it.
just everything. Like I don't know. I was just trying to use that as a segue.
Well, I don't know. Like we were saying, I talk about it a lot in the video, but I think what I like the most about it is the way are the juxtapositions of really dark or just strange aspects of it in the art and in the story, the character designs, what people say and do, and then more serious or emotionally affecting are just like aspects that have some level of ideological depth to them. I mean, it's still a shonen series, but like I talk about in the video too, there are themes to it that are like anti-colonial, anti-racist, whatever, and kind of going back and forth between it being this bizarre fairy tale uh, and something darker or sadder or more serious, and then it'll be really light and goofy. To me, it just makes such a wonderful adventure series, and I haven't seen anything in my entire life that has lived up to that as far as like creativity and storytelling ability.
Yeah, I've been telling people this for years that like One Piece is like the greatest thing I've ever read. And this is also coming from somebody who doesn't read books. Just, just I don't know. I think it was more. It's not that I don't like reading. It's more of a, I don't know. When you go to school and you're kind of forced to read books that you don't really want to read, it has that effect on you. But I've read other comics and stuff. I've read my weight in comics, and there's nothing else really like One Piece. Uh, and it's and people who like it, I think, have that same idea too. Um, and that's what kind of brings people together in the fandom, I suppose. Right. So favorite characters. I mean, it's easy to pick a favorite. I mean, not actually, it's not easy to pick a favorite Straw Hat. I think.
No.
But One Piece also has its wealth of side characters.
Well, Frankie's been my favorite since that night that I caught up in 2005, where I was like, really, where he comes in and he's like this asshole.
Yeah.
You get really mad at him, and then literally overnight, I just completely fell in love with the character. Although post time skip Frankie, I haven't been very happy with his design
No.
or what he's been. Sorry, it's just been like from my favorite to just like okay. And I like a
Yeah.
lot of
No.
side characters and stuff too. I do.
Well, in regards to Frankie, no, I'm with you here
Mhm.
on that. Actually, the rest of the
It's
podcast.
just so painful to even like think about.
Yeah, we sort of try to like not forget. We try to forget about it. We consider that particular chapter in the Dressrosa arc.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody knows the one we're talking about. We consider that the worst One Piece chapter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We.
I could see that and Absalom and Nami in the bathtub
Oh God.
where Usopp has farted. Those are the two. Like, what am I? Am I still doing this? Is this like really? This is the same thing that's like made me cry and has um, yeah. I don't really know what happened there. Hopefully, uh, you know, That
Yeah.
won't happen again.
Well, that's the thing that I thought was really great about your video is that you did address and pretty plainly like Oda's issues with women and trans and queer characters, but in a way that was still you're able to also explain why you don't completely write off the series because of that. And that's an issue that I have a lot of trouble expressing sometimes when there's like elements of things that I object to, but then I still love the thing and I don't completely, cancel it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I thought was great about your One Piece video in particular, is addressing those topics.
Thank you. And I like joke on Twitter because I've done videos that have been way more popular or way more overtly political, like extremely political, like about really contentious topics, and I get more backlash on the like 2-minute section in the One Piece video about how Oda draws women or trans people.
Wow.
People get so mad. I almost never delete comments, but I've had to, some stuff that just devolved into like slurs or like borderline threats. It's like, wow. And I went really out of my way to try to say I still love this, but as a woman, this is the way I feel about it, and as a queer person, this is the way I feel about it. And it is depressingly rare in this kind of like media crit community. Either people are all in for something and like if you criticize it you're just an SJW or whatever, or you cancel it, and people can't. I feel like I get twice the number of angry comments from people because I try to very honestly assess what I like and what I don't like, because I wouldn't have stopped reading it just because of some of that, but I can still say like, oh, that sucked. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna throw it in the garbage, I'm gonna set it on fire now because of the bathtub scene or whatever.
Yeah, I still recommend it to people, obviously. One Piece. But yeah, it's that kind of, I can never say that, oh well, this is, perfect in every way. And even fans, like, by the way, that, like, the fact that they would say that as opposed to like, I don't know, like that, if people complain about really dumb stuff, like I saw that a comment, somebody said that like, oh, Law is such a pussy now that he's hanging out with the Straw Hats. I'm like,
Okay.
If that's your measurement for why a series is good or bad, then you can just stop reading, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think if anybody has that sort of mentality about the series, or if that's what they're if that's what they're criticizing you for criticizing, then I don't know. I think they just have to take a step back and think about it for a bit. Like I think if you really love something, then of course you should criticize it. Like we know that, like we love Oda's work and we know that he can do better and has done better. So I mean, there's I think we should be able to expect the best from a series that we enjoy, and it's okay to be disappointed in it as well. Like society is, when it comes to this type of thing, I think it's too black and white, and it's okay to talk about the finer points and have larger discussions about this kind of thing.
I do. Anytime I care about something, I want to be able to be open about it.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I feel like I get a lot of flack. I mean, like, I guess friendly flack, but I always constantly badmouth Dressrosa, like, as an arc.
Dressrosa sucks. It's so bad. I don't care. I already get people yelling at me every day because I do YouTube stuff. That's the thing too. I was gonna say is that Whole Cake Island, the female characters in that I thought were awesome. I was very happy with it.
Yeah,
I was very excited. I thought Big Mom was awesome. I thought Pudding was awesome. Smoothie didn't have a lot of personality, but I liked her a lot. And if you compare that to like Rebecca and Baby 5, it's just like a comical, like there's a huge gulf between that kind of representation of like interesting weird women versus just like whatever was happening in Dressrosa.
Yeah, Pudding was it was a character that it was kind of hard to put my finger on why I was okay with the way she was portrayed, whereas I wasn't as much with like Rebecca or something, because there are things that you can point to that are kind of steeped in sexism with Pudding's character, but like she seems like a full real character still, and the jokes are good. I don't know, you know.
But she's funny and interesting and flawed, and she also isn't just there for like fan service, which I don't even have that much of a problem with fan service. It's just when every woman looks the same and they're all half naked and in peril all the time. It's like, come on. Whereas Pudding was more, she was intelligent and she was scary and weird and like obsessive. And I just thought she was really fun and really interesting.
Yeah. I sort of felt that Pudding was sort of the like a really great foil to Sanji. Because she sort of became the Sanji that Sanji became over the course of the series. Now, I remember, if I remember correctly, like you were a big Sanji fan back in the day, and I mean, I guess still are to a degree, right? But I think I mean, we've said this on the podcast that that Sanji was in dire need of a retooling after the Absalom incident, as I like to call it, because like that since then I feel like he's been sort of just I guess a bucket just full of horny jokes and nothing really else. But I felt
or go ahead.
Yeah, but I felt like Whole Cake Island did a lot for him in regards to just sort of, I don't know, I'm not going to say fixing Sanji, because he's not, it's he's still Sanji, but I don't know, like almost as an apology. I don't know.
I felt like it hit the reset button on him and like retconned him into being way nicer than he used to be. It's like, if you like, I was thinking about like in Little Garden when the Unluckies came in and he just like snapped their necks or whatever, and just like a lot of different little Sanji moments of him being more harsh or callous. And then the whole arc, his whole flashback is about how sweet he is and how innocent he is. And to me, it felt a little inconsistent, but I do prefer that to the whatever happened in Fishman Island where he had the nosebleed and almost died. That was just really stupid. Just stuff like that. I really, it felt a little weird, but I went with it and I really enjoyed it. And it's like, okay, this is the character that we have now, which is honestly preferable to, like you said, the last however many hundreds of chapters.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Do you have like a favorite arc, like a favorite few arcs? Because I mean, like, that's the thing about One Piece that I think I can say is that whenever we do the arc rankings, it's really hard. It's I think the hardest thing for me to do is to bottom rank like arcs. I have of course my bottom ranked arcs, but for a good chunk of them are just story arcs where these are good but nothing much happens in them, so they're not as good as say something like Water 7 or Alabasta.
Yeah, for me, I think the only contentious aspect of what I like is I usually like arcs that people hate, or it's also, since I haven't been as active in the fandom, and we might have talked about this on Twitter, I remember when everyone hated Skypiea and thought it was terrible. I always liked it. I thought it was fun. I'm not the kind of person who's like, this has to have a really serious story element to it. It's a self-contained story that does have outside ties to it. I liked it versus something like Dressrosa or like Fishman Island, which I think are just really poorly written, or like are like a rehash. Like I always felt Fishman Island was just like Arlong Park again, but bad is how I took it in. And my favorite arc is Water 7. I like the Sea Train and Enies Lobby a lot too, but Water 7 is just like, I remember the scene where they have Iceberg and they're checking his pulse, and then you realize that Frankie's Cuddy Flam. I remember my heart was like racing when I was reading that, and I was completely like physically freaking out, and I was so into it. And it's hard. I'm not a super emotional person, or it's not super easy for me to get that invested in media, especially as I've gotten older. So that's just like one of the most intense emotional moments I've ever had with any piece of media, and it sticks out a lot in my memory. And just loving Frankie and loving Iceberg and a lot of the other side characters in it as well. It's just really fun.
Yeah, Water 7 was sort of it was a weird. I'm glad you brought up Water 7, like as an arc that has a lot of emotional punch to it, because I feel like a lot of people really jumped on during Water 7, and it sort of became their Arlong Park. Like for me, Arlong Park was like my, okay, I'm in it to win it.
And that was my favorite before Water 7. That was the easy favorite for me before.
But like Water 7 it has this weird, like tinge of mystery to it, right? Like it's really tense. The CP9 reveal to me like was I mean, it was big enough, of course, to get everybody to have that as their forum signature for like forever. But like that like Robin mysteriously leaving, like just being there week to week, it was one of the most exciting things I remember in like being in. I can remember where I was sitting during like reading these chapters the first time.
Yeah, that's when I caught up week to week, was around Water 7.
Yeah. And I think part of my problem with Water 7 is that it's too good. Like I don't want to say that's where One Piece has peaked, but because there's been so much great stuff since then, but as like a cut and dry story arc, Oda managed to like micromanage the backstory of Frankie, the backstory of Robin, a whole bunch of mystery involving both Luffy versus Usopp, that whole thing, everything that happens with the Going Merry. Like there's so much that happens in this entire section, and narratively it just works so well, which is why like I guess coming back again to like Fishman Island and Dressrosa, like it just it doesn't seem as tight, like, and I'm trying to put more of a positive spin on this too, because man, whenever I get talking about Dressrosa, I get talking about it and it's bad. And we have an entire read through segment for all that anyway. But like I think Water 7 was like it was such a golden point for One Piece, and Oda's art I think was at its peak there. Like it was I remember the art sort of changed a little bit right after Skypiea and sort of continued that way up until the end of Water 7. It has its own particular art style, if that makes any sense.
I think Skypiea has a very distinctive, their little skinny necks and stuff.
Yeah.
Skypiea has a distinctive look to it, and then Water 7 is more... Yeah, and I think it was like right around or right before like Zoro got a little more buff, but not as big as he is now. And the way that he did lines were a little more like connected. I don't know. It's hard to describe it on a podcast.
No, I know what you mean. Like I feel like Water 7, I noticed their faces, he started putting more wrinkles in everybody's faces and giving them more exaggerated expressions. Kind of making them look a little more human, if that makes any sense. I noticed it in the eyes. And I think that's like a trend that he's sort of kept up throughout the years since then. Water 7, super good. So you're caught up, right?
Yeah. Unless I think there wasn't a chapter this week.
Nope.
But I'm kind of I think I'm still caught up. If not, I'm one behind. But no, I think I'm caught up.
Yeah.
With some crazy stuff going. I like Wano a lot.
Yeah. Right.
It's been fun. Nice. It's been weird.
Yeah.
Like narratively, it's been really weird too.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, it's way more strange than just and creative than just like the Straw Hats in ancient Japan, which is what I think we were all expecting. Like there's a lot more weirdness going on, which is cool.
Yeah, the narrative structure of it is pretty interesting. The Kabuki acts. I'm really digging that aspect of it. Like that makes it really special to me. And I think he's knocking it out of the park so far, pacing wise. Like I've said this, like as soon as like Dressrosa ended and Zoe happened, like everything has just been on point pacing wise. Whole Cake Island could have been another like 3-year long arc, but it just moved. I think when you get to the end of a story, you can kind of tell that the author has some pieces that he's wanted to set up for a while, and Wano is one of those, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? Like, how do you feel about the Reverie, all the stuff that's happening in that area of the story?
I don't know what to think about it. It's another thing that's just like, what? Like really weird, and I have a lot of dread about it. I'm really worried for all these women.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like something absolutely terrible is going to happen, and I had expected us to be there a little longer. It's like, nope, on to the other arc, and it's like, okay, well, we'll see. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, well, at this point, we're like, I think there's some scuttlebutt in terms of like, are we gonna go back to the Reverie after this first act of Wano? But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion that we're probably gonna just head on right into Act 2 at this point, and after Wano's finished, then a month has passed, which means the Reverie had been done for 3 weeks. So we're gonna come back into a like completely changed world.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get that sense of dread that you mean. Like, it's pretty nuts. The one character that like gave me that like sinking feeling in my stomach always is Blackbeard and all of his crew. Like every time they show up, I get really uneasy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if there's anything I can say about like there's bits in Dressrosa that I really like, and anytime Jesus Burgess was there, like
It was fun.
yeah, like like that's the thing. Like it even like the worst arc has some really bright shining spots that I really
there's a lot of great stuff in Dressrosa. There's just a lot of stuff in Dressrosa.
Yeah,
I always say I love Cavendish and I love Bartolomeo. They're both hysterical, and I think they're really interesting, like colorful. And I love Bellamy coming back. I always liked Bellamy, and other people hated him, which is fair to hate him. But I really liked his like face turn and how sad his story was, like paralleling it with Bart's.
Oh yeah.
How they, depending on who you look up to, you're going to end up really upset or not. But I really, really liked those aspects of it.
Yeah, it's got some pretty like good characters. A lot of nice nuggets are in there. Fujitora is really great.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it had some good bits. But as far as Wano goes, like man, I'm crossing my fingers that the gravy train is going to keep on chugging along, because I don't know, every single chapter I'm kind of in awe of like the stuff that's going on and seeing old characters brought back, which is my favorite thing about One Piece, honestly, is that he doesn't kill characters generally. And I remember that being like a big discussion point in the fandom for a really long time, like people complaining that he doesn't kill anybody. But then when he finally does kill somebody, it actually means something.
It means a lot.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
That's all I was saying. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Joey?
Oh, I was just gonna say people remain butthurt about Pell forever.
I was thinking about. I mean, of course, I was thinking about Pell when we were talking about it. That's why when Pedro blew up, right?
Yeah.
I was like, is he dead? I don't really care. I mean, I liked him, but I wasn't like devastated because it's something that's happened, repeatedly. I think Pell being the most egregious example.
Yeah.
But I was never upset about Pell. I mean, I was watching it when I was like 13, 14. And I'd be like, why isn't the Birdman dead? I want blood. Like, okay. It's weird.
It still feels really great when they come back. I don't know. I was pretty positive that Pedro was not dead, but think if he's not, Oda is stretching it out, the reveal out that he will come back or not. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm starting to believe that he is, but
like this time around, yeah, Whole Cake Island killed him. I guess I'm putting that in quotations. And what's his face? Pound.
Oh yeah.
Lola and Chiffon's dad.
Oh yeah.
Like we don't see hide nor hair from them for the rest of that arc, and Whole Cake ends so it's so dire. Like that's like actually something I did want to talk to you about, Shannon, because I've seen you gone on to like praise Whole Cake Island for how dark it is and stuff, and it's pretty wild. Like Big Mom's backstory is something I don't think we've ever seen in One Piece. Something that visceral.
Yeah, I think it's the darkest backstory. It's not the saddest or the most like upsetting, but I remember on Twitter that day, people sort of didn't get what had happened, and I was like, no. This is what, she ate them. You didn't, it's like, I don't know, I don't think so. There's this. I was like, no, look at it. Like, go back and look at it. Because I remember sitting there like, oh my God, wow, that's so sad. It's like it's like you have your slave trader fake mother who you accidentally ate. And it does really dig into that sort of like European folklore, that kind of darkness. that Oda will touch on every so often, like the Grimm's fairy tales kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like seeing something like that like still happen in One Piece is kind of nuts. And they kept it in the anime too, which really surprised
Ooh.
me. Yeah.
Hmm.
If there's anything I can like, I usually generally disparage the anime for having really poor pacing. But I've caught a little bit of the Whole Cake Island arc, and some of it's really great. I think they got a new director. A new director hopped on, and yeah, like every episode since I guess like the wedding cake came down or whatever has been just like on fire. And yeah, so actually, yeah, I'd like to swing back to talk about the anime a little bit. I know that you stopped watching it a while ago, but you're a pretty big fan back in the day.
Yeah, I watched and rewatched those DVDs, and at some point I had some like fan subs of Water 7 and a little bit past Water 7 that I did watch again too. And I really like I mean the movies are separate, but I really like movie 6 a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
Like everyone does.
Oh yeah. I'm like shocked that that hasn't gotten a stateside release just because like
Yeah.
yeah, Mamoru Hosoda is kind of huge right now in the
Mhm.
anime community. Like Mirai, I think, is his latest movie that had
Yeah.
its premiere in LA a couple weeks ago, and his movies are very widely well regarded, and it's really funny whenever I see like a tweet about like, oh yeah, all of Hosoda's movies, and I'm like, no, not all of them. Like they don't even mention the Digimon movie, which is
Right.
a part of that. But yeah, movie 6 is a very interesting movie, and one that when somebody asks me about One Piece, I don't normally recommend that one right away. It's a very beautiful movie, but it's so like it's so different, right? Like
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like One Piece, but it has all the characters there, and they're exactly who they should be.
There's
So
just so much despair in it
yeah,
that's absent. And I can't just say like, oh, it's dark, because One Piece is usually pretty dark. But yeah, there's something about it. It's like dark and creepy and gross.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I went and saw when they put the Alabasta movie in theaters. I went and saw it. I like traveled and paid to see that terrible movie. With
Yeah.
some people, I went with like a couple of relatives, and they literally like walked out and
Oh,
hung
man.
out rather than watch, because it was so. And I was just like, I remember at that time being so upset, like this is so awful. Why didn't they bring over Baron Omatsuri? But
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's the same thing with, I really like, and I've thought about doing an essay on this, and I've written a little bit of it. Like Castle of Cagliostro is also one of my favorite animated movies. That's not really Lupin the Third, depending on which incarnation you're talking about. That's a lot more lighthearted and sweet, but it's still good and still sort of an introduction to the character. So it sort of depends on how many caveats you give someone and how much you're willing to trick them to get them to watch One Piece. Like, it's like this, and then they start with like, Kobe and Alvida, and it's like, what? Okay.
Yeah. It can be a battle, an uphill one at that, to try and get somebody into One Piece, especially having them watch like the movies. That the Alabasta movie in particular is it's the worst one. And simply
I hated it. I was so mad.
Like what really sucks about it is that they do all this stuff. I mean, it doesn't look great also, but they have all, they'll go through most of the beats of Alabasta, but give absolutely no context whatsoever. And there's no setup for anything. So like something happens and then something else happens. It's just a series of events. And I went to go see it at Otakon, I think, and I brought a couple friends with me who had never seen One Piece, and boy, they were asking me questions like the whole time.
I remember there was a lot of fan service in it too. That was like real, like boob physics.
Yeah,
really exaggerate, like weirdly exaggerate, especially for that point in the anime.
Yeah, like that. So that one, and I think the seventh movie have weird like jiggle physics, and I think it's due to the director of both movies. Sam could correct me on this at some point in the future, but I don't know if they were directed by the same person. I don't have Wikipedia opened or anything like that. But as far as like the more recent movies are or have been, they're great, and I think I used Strong World at one point to try and get somebody into One Piece, just to give them a feel of like, well, this is what the show is basically like.
On a smaller scale. We're still on a big theatrical scale, but not. Well, it's really difficult because what makes, like, I feel like the reason I'm so involved in One Piece is that it's so dense and there's so much mythos to it, and there are all these characters and there's so much payoff, years and years and years after something is set up, and you can't express that in a couple hours. It's just like it has all of the advantages and disadvantages of something that's this huge. Although, like you were saying earlier, you can catch up on it, like, really, especially if someone can read fairly quickly. You can catch up on it, like, if you had enough free time in a couple weeks, really. Not that anyone would want to do that, but there's been multiple times where I got behind and got interested in it and read like 100 chapters in a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like marathoned it.
I feel that really as time goes on, it gets denser and denser, and it takes longer and longer to read the chapters.
That makes sense too. Yeah, versus like East Blue stuff, which is really easy to just like, and also just take in since it's on such a smaller scale.
Yeah. As far as the manga goes, especially, Oda's assistants like break their backs doing all this background work. Like it's pretty insane when you compare it to East Blue, which is relatively scant background wise. Getting people into One Piece as an adult, I found is pretty difficult. Just because we're all like, I don't know, we're all in our 30s and don't have the free time to, binge watch a whole lot of stuff these days. And whenever people do binge watch something, it's usually like a 12 episode like HBO show or something like that. And like it's gotten to the point that like, I want my seasons in 12 episode bursts now. This isn't One Piece, but I recently watched Megalobox. On Crunchyroll. It's a boxing anime. I guess it's based off of Ashita no Joe, and it looks really good. And when I was watching it, I was like halfway done, and I'm like, man, I hope this is just 13 episodes, because that's just that's all I want. I just want a nice, concise story now. And I think that's kind of what I've. I don't know. Maybe it's just being older and having your tastes change, but I do look forward to the day that One Piece ends, because I want like a good ending. Like I want a full, concise story. And I'm just interested to see how Oda pulls that off, and hope that he doesn't leave any loose threads.
I want to know what he does next. He's been doing this over 20 years, and it's like it doesn't seem at all, especially now that he's tired of it or stuck in it. But it's also like, what if he could completely start over, learning, what he has about storytelling, like what comes after, shorter or long or whatever. Or if he could just take a break. I have thought about that. Or if he could do something, not that he necessarily would, something more adult, or something more for a younger audience too, than something that's sort of more in the middle. I think it's like there's a lot of freedom in the format, but there are also limitations. It's like, what else can he do if he wasn't stuck in this thing that makes billions and billions of dollars?
Honestly, I'd like for him to just chill out for a bit and have some fun with his kids.
And sleep.
Jesus.
I think he's kind of specifically designed One Piece to be his outlet where he can do whatever he wants to some extent.
That's true.
As far as genre and stuff goes, but at age groups, maybe not so much, but I think he's said in interviews that he doesn't have, he's not going to ever do any other long works, but I wouldn't be surprised if after he retires, he puts in a one shot here or there.
Like he makes a Sandland or a Jocko, basically following on in Toriyama's footsteps. It's kind of nuts to think about that he's been doing this for like forever, and how long we've been following it too. This is by far the longest series I've ever followed, and I'm still into, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know if you ever think about that, right? Like it's it's kind of funny to.
I do. It's weird.
If you think of the same stuff that you were into when you first got into One Piece, and how much of that reflects your tastes now.
Oh man, God, it's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, because I'm a very different person 15 years later, or almost. I guess going on 16 years next summer, but yeah, and there's nothing else that I've kept up with like this. None of the video games I like, none of the music that I liked, none of the comics, really, none of the movies. My tastes have changed a whole lot since then. But well, it's also because One Piece has changed, or it's kept it fresh. I mean, we talked about there were some rough spots for a little bit, but I was so I think I caught up. There's a couple times I've gotten behind. One of them was Dressrosa, and then finally I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try it. Then I got through, I think, Zoe and part of Whole Cake Island in one night, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm really sad I've been behind on this. This is so fun.
Yeah. It's it. I like kind of that it comes and goes, but it's better when it's just full steam ahead. I think the time skip I think was difficult. For
It's weird.
Yeah, like I personally loved most of the new designs anyway. I was always on board with Frankie's design. I'll be honest. His new action figure action figure.
I think it's
design.
too busy and like bulky. I think also if he had been used better with it, I would like it more.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think over the course of the last couple of years, Oda has sort of toned down the size of his giant ball shoulders.
I think that was a problem, is that he's literally difficult to fit into the panels with the other characters.
Yeah,
he's so big, and there's so many different shapes going on. And I really liked his sketches of like short-haired Robin.
Yeah,
he didn't go with. She's fine now, but I liked her old design better too, with the Uma Thurman hair.
Yeah, I sometimes I wonder, like, well, I mean, people get their hair cut in real time. But yeah, I think yeah, I'm in agreement that there are a lot of designs that I'm a little disappointed he didn't go with, but I don't know. I get the sneaking suspicion that maybe there's going to be another time skip. I kind of
or another big change.
Yeah, I kind of hope not, but I mean, it depends on how it fits the story, obviously. That's sort of where I'm at. If it benefits the story and the characters, and of course my enjoyment of the series, I'm down. I'm down to clown, theoretically.
I like everybody else's. I like Zora and Sanji and Usopp, and Nami's not that different. Her hair's like a little wavier. Like I don't that didn't bother me, or like either way. Is there like since I don't keep up with the fandom anymore, I haven't in many years. Like, what do people think about Zoro's eye being closed?
Man.
Is it like weird, dumb stuff, or are there any interesting, And we don't have to open up the can of worms if you don't want to, but I'm just like, oh yeah, that hasn't been explained, and I'm just like, I'll see. But I'm sure people are really intense about it.
Yeah, people love theories. People love Naruto.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, yeah. If there's anything that I can say about the fandom and how it's changed since like you and I were coming up in AP forums, theories have just theories are everywhere. And
I know there are a lot of theory YouTube channels, and I'll click on one, I'll be like, this is really stupid, and I'm not trying to be mean either. It's just like you're really reaching for clickbait. I was just like,
No, yeah, there's a lot of that.
That ties back into what you were talking about Big Mom's flashback and how everyone was kind of reaching for like, oh, it looks like she ate them, but she didn't really eat them, because I think everyone's just sort of desperate to hit the like theory gold,
and be the one to figure out, like, it's a puzzle to solve.
Yeah,
which parts of it are, but
yeah, if I were able to predict everything that went on in One Piece, I'd be pretty disappointed. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I like that Sanji's other eye was just an eye. I like that answer to stuff sometimes.
Yeah, super funny. Like that. Like I think that like the first panel of him we see after the time skip is just a panel of that eye and the eyebrow, and I lost it. Like it's just a reverse eyebrow. I absolutely lost it. I loved it so much. As far as Zoro's eye is concerned, the one popular thing that I've seen, I don't know if people are serious about it. They were like, oh, maybe it's a Sharingan eye like Kakashi in Naruto. And I guess that I didn't follow Naruto enough to know exactly what the Sharingan does, but I think it gives them like heightened senses or something.
It's a magic eye, gives you magic powers.
I could use one of those. I've never been able to do a magic eye. I forget where I saw this the other day. It might have been a Reddit thread or a piece together segment thing, but I think somebody posited if Zoro lost his eye by like tripping and falling or like accidentally poking it out with a fork like while he was eating with Mihawk and Perona or something like that during the time skip. Like
I would
something,
love that.
yeah, like something really dumb like that. Like that's and that's kind of on brand for Oda too. Like that's that seems pretty in character for Zoro, just to do something dumb like that and screw up his vision. Yeah, the fandom has grown in a weird way. Like there are a lot of strictly One Piece YouTubers out there, which I think is interesting. I mean, it's not my world. I don't know what your experience has been like since you started your own channel, but I don't know. How difficult is it to like reach a particular audience? Have you found?
I think it depends on the audience, because some stuff that I do will naturally get a lot more hits than other stuff. Like the fake friends videos. Well, the second one did very well, or for me, they did very well. It's at like 60,000 views, and the first one got lifted up to like 50,000, which isn't a ton in YouTube terms, but for me, it's a lot. And then I'll do film reviews of films that I really like that are a little more obscure, and they'll get like 1,000 or 2,000 hits. So it can be very difficult. And if you're more clickbaity or inflammatory, then it's a lot easier to get views, and I don't want to be like that. So I miss out on that. And I haven't really, apart from that one video, I've never really tried to get to the anime crowd. And I might have been able to, because I started out doing this series called So You Want to Be a Film Nerd, which is about film theory and film history. And I got tired of doing it and sort of had to rebuild my audience. So you're always building audiences in different areas, or having to let go of some people who aren't going to be on board for the next thing that you do, which I think would be very different if I was catering to a very specific, very enthusiastic audience like the One Piece audience.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that being a thing, definitely. I think I've come to realize that doing a podcast just based on One Piece is a little limiting because it's I think it's a pretty niche anime as far as people who just strictly watch anime goes. And then you have people who do have just the One Piece is on their queue of things to watch, but they also watch like 5 other things every week. And it's difficult for me because One Piece was the only thing that I watched for a really long time. I think this past year was the first time I got back into watching just general anime. And I don't think I've read any new manga, except for I started reading My Hero Academia this past year, which is pretty fun. I really enjoy that. But One Piece has kind of been my only thing because I feel like maybe I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah, as you get older. That's what I was talking to my cousin about, how we used to watch movies over and over again, and we watch all these TV shows and read all this stuff, and it's like I have like a career, the job and friends, and I travel to conventions and panel at conventions. I really don't have time, and I'll get questions from fans. They're like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" And it's like, no, I'm too busy making videos for you to watch, for me to watch all this other stuff. Yeah, I watched Better Call Saul this year. And I've been reading this webtoon called Sweet Home that I really, really like. I've kept up with that. And for a few years, I kept up with One Punch Man, and now I'm behind on it. And every so often, I'll read like a one-shot manga or here or there, something that'll catch my interest, but One Piece is the only one that I like. And well, Sweet Home now, but Sweet Home, it's like 1 chapter a week. It's really easy to keep up with. But yeah, I don't have a million different things as far as media that I'm taking in that I want to talk about. Although I could see, like, have you ever thought about branching out and doing more stuff, or would you even want to?
That's the thing.
On top of the One Piece podcast?
So me and Joey have our own podcast that we do outside of this called Toho Yaro. It's about Japanese film, and it's sort of like a book club type situation where it's an excuse for us to watch new movies. And because of all of our schedules, we do it with Scott Dryman as well, and we don't have super we don't have a huge amount of time to do it either, so we can only do it once a month, and if that. Like this past month we were a little late on an episode because we couldn't get our schedules synced up, and that's part of it. Like I have all sorts of ideas of stuff I want to do, but I also have a job, I have rent to pay, I have bills. I'm an improviser on the side. I have such a busy life that all the stuff I want to do in a lifetime I wouldn't be able to do unless
Mm-hmm.
I had a trust fund.
Yeah, with Toho Yaro, like occasionally, yeah, I worry about it not coming out regularly enough, and when I start thinking about like, well, is this movie that we're watching too niche or too hard for people to get a hold of? They won't listen to the show if they haven't watched the movie, and da 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 da, da and all these things, and like, oh, should we change the format so we're not spoiling it, and all these sort of questions about it. Eventually, I just am like, this is a thing I'm doing recreationally for myself, and like hopefully others like it, and I try to make it so other people like it, and that makes me feel good when they like it. But like, I just, this isn't my career, so I'm gonna just kind of make it a fun thing that I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it.
That's good too. That's why I quit. When I quit doing the Film Nerd series, people were pretty upset, or I would get comments about it. And it's just like, I don't want to. I'm already taking a huge chance trying to make a living on YouTube. I'm not going to do something I don't like just to get more views or to get consistent views or anything. Or I'll see people who, there are just certain subjects that I don't want to talk about in videos that are very, very popular in like film and comic books and whatever. And if I don't actually care about or like something, I'm just not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And or feel forced into talking about it. Like, I've talked about this on Twitter, just like the idea of making a video about Star Wars. Especially as someone who's fairly apathetic about Star Wars, I don't dislike it. I just never. One Piece was my Star Wars. It's the thing that I got into. That is such a contentious topic, like we were talking about with the representation of women in One Piece. If you like Star Wars or if you don't like Star Wars, it's like a huge explosive thing, which means you'll get a lot more views and a lot more attention. But I made a video about the Ghostbusters reboot, and I made it a year after it came out. I like already written the script as a Medium post, but I was like, I don't want like weirdo alt-right people. And so I like waited for it to calm down. Then I was like, here's how I feel about this. And it got a lot less attention than it would have, but it was like, I don't need that in my life.
No, exactly. And sometimes I feel like in the case of One Piece, like if, I don't know, if somebody else covers a thing, then like, okay, well, we don't need to cover that, I guess. I don't know. Let's, like, theories, we leave the theories up to the other fans, basically. That's generally how it goes. That's what our piece together segment's for. We occasionally read theories, and a good chunk of the time there's some pretty interesting stuff people think about. That's the thing I really love about One Piece is that it's sort of limitless as to where things can go and what's in Oda's head. I think this past week we talked about potentially Vegapunk being an alien.
Ooh,
I
can see that.
Like one of the aliens from the Eneru side story, like the cover story, and how all of those like aliens look kind of weird and like, oh yeah, what about those guys? It's if you can think about it, like if it's in the story and you can think about it, then it might happen. I don't know. There's he's built this world and there's so much for anybody to kind of play around with. So, all right. Any other final thoughts? Shannon, if you had any questions for us or anything that you wanted to talk about topic wise.
I don't know. I think we covered a lot of my favorite stuff. Just about Oda's sense of humor and his creativity is what has kept me coming back, and just like a whole lot of weird, like genuinely weird, endearing characters.
Like Bon Clay, I think is a really good example of like Bon Clay is the poster child for like One Piece side characters. I think. God, he's so endearing, and I don't know. I feel like he says like, I don't know. There's just so much to him, and I think, and I hope he keeps coming back. We've had Casey on the show, Minofsky article on Twitter, and he loves Bon Clay, and I'm sure he would agree with me. Sentiment.
Yeah, it's interesting watching. Or go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna. This was just gonna be an offhand comment that I feel like Bon Clay is kind of also the poster child for like the tension between the good and problematic aspects of One Piece.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, where you watch someone reading it and they get to him and they're like, oh no, and you're like, no, he's fine. It's what happens later that's bad. Like, or there's something about him that is just so endearing, and there's so much humanity for this sort of like weird, like not like, is he, with the terms of like 2018 American culture, someone who might be non-binary or genderqueer or whatever, who is strange, but it's not like people are terrified of him or disgusted by him. They love him. And he's such an important part. And I really like reading the comments sometimes on Bon Clay videos of people who are normally, you can tell they're normally like more homophobic or transphobic or whatever, but they're like, but I love him, he's so great. And it's like, wow, I wonder if like this is one of those things where it's like, does representation really have a net positive effect on people? And then you get to like Sanji on the island of whatever, and that's just like the worst. A lot of that goodwill gets kind of burned with stuff like that. But I don't know if I still have it anymore, but I had a little Bon Clay figure where you press the button and it talked, like a little keychain. I had forever ago, and I wish I could find it.
Oh, so good.
I guess I feel like we should ask if you think that there's a possibility that you would do another One Piece themed video in the future.
Oh, I do want to do the video comparing Cagliostro and Baron Omatsuri, just because they're two adaptations that are very beloved, but they're really, really different from the source material. And it's like, well, why did these work, whereas something else might? Because I don't think anyone hated either of them, even though most people agree, you know. Like with Lupin, it's like Momo is the more like raunchy Lupin movie, and then Cagliostro is the more family-friendly one. I wouldn't say I'm like super sensitive to criticism or harassment online, because I get it a lot no matter what, but I was really not prepared for the percentage of that One Piece video that would be people very upset with me. So I'd have to really think about if it was worth it and what I want to talk about, because I never know if it's going to get picked up by the wrong person and get like dislike spammed, or if people report it as spam and it'll get taken down or whatever. If I can find a good angle that I want to talk about. I was thinking about trying to make a video on Whole Cake Island, but it's also like, what percentage of my fan base would be interested in it, and what do I have to say about it? Like the female characters in Whole Cake Island and how much I like them a lot. And I also don't want to come off as like responding directly to critics like that.
Yeah.
Like so I don't know.
Well, if and when you do, we'll be there watching it. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you on again, obviously. Maybe in like a manga recap type capacity if you wanted to come on for one of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we go, plug away. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can give you money to support your craft.
Thank you. You can find me on Twitter at Plenty of Alcoves, and also at Strucci Movies, which is my YouTube channel. And if you go on YouTube and you type in like, so you want to be a film nerd, or like Fake Friends Parasocial or Strucci Movies, I'm very easy to find. I've just started a teen superhero actual play podcast my friend Joel is running, that I'm one of the main people on, which is completely different from anything I've ever done. So as far as doing podcasting, it's always me being interviewed talking about movies or whatever, and it's like, oh my god, I'm playing a character, and it's like kind of nerve-wracking and fun. But that's called Critical Bits, and that should drop like tomorrow.
Oh wow. That a tabletop?
Yeah, it's Masks, which is based on the Powered by the Apocalypse system that the Adventure Zone guys used later on in their run. It's like based on 2d6 rolls. I'm really proud of how the first episode came out. I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I have a Patreon for ongoing donations, and I have a Ko-fi, or coffee, however you say it, for like one-time donations.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, thank you so much again for coming on. It's always great talking to you, obviously.
You too. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I guess that does it for this particular segment. Let's go see what everybody else is up to.
Yes, let's.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 546 for the week of Monday, November 19th, 2018. I want to thank everyone for coming on this week. It's kind of a disjointed episode. We're kind of all over the place. I want to thank Steven for coming on and wish him a happy birthday. It's part of the reason he isn't on most of this episode this week. But I just want to wish Steven a happy birthday and thank him for going through the One Piece magazine with us. And as I said, anime recap for episode 862 and the interview we had with Shannon that you just heard. But yeah, that's really it. We're sort of we're taking it easy this week with the manga. So check out Zach's ongoing adventures in Southeast Asia. He posts semi-regularly on Zach_Logan on Twitter. And Sam, where can the good people out there contact you?
They can find me on Twitter at Lucky Chainsaw. They can find me on AnimeNewsNetwork.com doing the daily streaming reviews for One Piece, Black Clover, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind. And they can find me on the One Piece podcast every week doing the anime recaps.
Did we get your opinions on choreography this week?
Yeah, I got to wax philosophical a little bit on the psychedelic torture dance sequence.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. I've been busy, so I'm gonna have to once we're done with this.
It blew my fucking mind.
Great. That's an endorsement. Like that's one of the biggest endorsements you can give. Alex, where can the people out there find you?
Hey, you can find me at Dude! On Twitter, and also you can listen to me every month on Toho Yaro, a Japanese film club podcast that I do with Joey Weiser, who you also heard on this podcast this month, or this week rather, and Scott Dryman. The latest movie that we have done is called Sweet Bean, and it's really, really sweet. No pun intended at all. Please go check it out. And in order to get ready for next month, check out The Funeral by Juzo Itami. That's the movie that we're doing for December.
Itami Juzo is always a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
And as for me, I am at, I'm also at Weeb Trailers on Twitter. I've been posting some interesting new stuff. I got Interstellar 4-5, the Daft Punk anime trailer up there. And as far as kind of a rare trailer now, I'm going to be posting the Miramax Princess Mononoke trailer from that old DVD. So, yeah,
how about
that? Yeah. And you can contact the podcast, or I'm also at Edward E. One Piece for my main account, but the podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. OnePiecePodcast is our Skype name. Please support us, Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Our subreddit, r/OnePiecePodcast. You can leave us some Piece Together there. Now, I know we didn't do some Piece Together this week, but we'll have a new chapter. And if you have any Sulong related anime questions, you can ask them next week as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or call us on our phone number. That's 347-497-MAJI.
MAJI.
It's 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
Your questions, your comments, your theories, your reasons why you wish the manga was already back this week. And yeah, that's it for the One Piece podcast. Hopefully we'll have Steve back next week, and maybe I'll come up with some trivia for the end of the episode. But for the One Piece podcast this week, my name is Ed.
And my name is Alex.
And we'll see you next week, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.